So yesterday we have learned about for loop, right? So we have another thing, switch statement as well. Like switch is something which we can use like if there are multiple checks needs to be done. Okay, there are multiple ifs are there, and then based on those ifs, if you want to do something like, for example, multiple ifs means, for example, uh, if it is Monday, I want to do something. If it is Tuesday, I want to do something else. Like we have 7 days, right? Like that. So based on that, if we want to do any other things, then we can use this switch statement. Okay. So the syntax of switch will be like this. Like first switch of X. Like here X means what is the value which is in X that will be coming here. And here uh, we are using case. Like case means here, for example, case Monday, case Tuesday. Okay. So this X should hold the value of any of these, like Monday, Tuesday, or anything, right? So any of these case gets satisfied. For example, X holds the value of Monday, then whatever the block of code under this case that will be running. Okay. And for each of the case, generally we write break so that the other statements under it won't run. Okay. So if don't write break here, it will run for the other statement as well. Like whatever under this case, that will also be running. So if you want only one particular case needs to be executed, then break is mandatory. So this I'll be showing with an example. Okay. So let's say, for example, let's see this example, then we'll have our own example. Okay. So let a equals to 2 plus 2. So a equals to 2 plus 2 means a is holding the value of 4, right? So what it will do, will check for the case 3 is matching with 4. No, right? Then it will go for this case 4, and it will be giving the alert as exactly. Then underneath it, we are seeing the break statement. So it will be exiting out of this particular switch statement. Okay, so out I should get the output as exactly. Okay, and you can see this default, right? So default colon. Okay, so what is this default colon means? So whenever any of these values doesn't satisfy, okay, so it is like a else statement. Default is like a else statement. Okay, if any of these values doesn't satisfy, then default will be running. I don't know such values. Okay, so here we have written a break statement, and let's see how this particular thing will work without break. Okay, so how it works means, so it will check where it is matching. First it matched 4, right? So first it will be running the statement. Okay, as already it entered, it is running running the statement. Okay, so here it will print exactly. So now there is no break. Okay, so here if there is no break, it won't check for the condition. Okay, it won't check whether 4 is equal to or 5. It will directly run this too big, and then it will also run the default statement as well. So if you don't write break, all the statements which are below it, it will be keep on executing. Okay, exactly too big. I don't know such values. So all the statements which are under it, it will be running. Okay. So this is how this switch statement work in JavaScript. So like you have to like know how this works so that you can write your own scenarios and your own okay. So example, so plus a means uh, a is in string, plus a means it will be it will be integer, right? So number. So we are adding plus of any of the string, it will try to convert it to a number. So a is 1 now. So b is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So this particular statement has been passed. So we are getting this alert. So even we can write some expressions that won't check. So, but one more thing. So if we are in the switch, if we are passing the string one, and if we here write a number one, then it won't execute. In switch, it should exactly match the type as well. Okay. In normal, if you use double equal to, it will work. But in if statements, even it should match the types as well. That I'll take any of the example and show. Okay. So let's write some example and check. Where sorry. Um, I'm writing this statement day of week. Okay, I'm passing it. Okay, so, so here I'll be writing the statements. For example, case zero. Okay, case zero colon. Enter. So I should write a break statement so that whichever underneath it, it won't run once this particular statement has been run. Okay. So next, I'll be writing a case one colon and same thing console.log. It's a Monday. Okay, so let's check how it runs now. Ideally, what it should do, day of week is holding 0. So which case it is matching? 0 is matching, right? So I should get only the output as it's a Sunday. Okay. So for example, instead of number 0, if I give in double quotes, let's check how it runs. So incorrect value received, it's saying why? Because it's a string and it's a number. So in this switch case, switch statements, it will be checking for the type as well. Okay. For example, if I give one, I should get it as a Monday. Okay. And if there is no break statement, I should get it's a Monday and incorrect value received. Because there is no break, it will run all the statements. Okay. Let me know if there are any doubts. Okay. So let's check if day of zero is week is zero, then I should get it's a Sunday and it's a Monday. And after executing this Monday, there is break, so it won't run this default. So you're getting how it's running. So if there is no break, it will include in this particular like it won't check for this case. It will also execute this one. Okay. So we can use this in cases like, for example, I can say, so kind of R statements. For example, how can I say? For example, it's age. Okay, so age is 18. Age is below 18. Okay, so so I don't know whether this particular conditions, how we can keep the conditions less than or equal. Let's check. Huh? So here we are checking for the exact matchings only. Like if it matches with this particular thing, then only we are showing something. Okay. If it is less than or greater than that, we are not using in the switch statement. Mm, so I guess that won't be possible here. Only like if this particular variable matches here, then only we can use this. Let's see. So it is just to way to compare the values with multiple. Okay. Let's we can compare with exact values only here. We can't compare if it is less than or greater than like that. Okay. So like is it confusing or should I change how I should tell? Okay. Is it confusing first of all? Hello.
No, from my side, Sunil.
Okay. So here, the main use case is like if there are multiple checks and if we are checking for the exact values, like if it is zero, it should be Sunday. If it is one, it should be Monday. Like based on the value which is inputted, if you want to do something, then we can do that. Okay. And if you want R cases, like if it is one or two, I want same thing. Like for example, case six. Okay. And case seven. Even if it is 6 or 7, any of these values given, then I want to say it's a weekend. Okay. So it works as a like R condition. Either if it is 6 or 7, this particular log I should get. So in those cases, I can write like if you want R cases, then we can use like this. Case 6 and 7. It's a weekend I'm getting, right? So like that, you can use R statement in this particular switch. Okay. Even we learned about type matters. Like if it is a string, we should also pass the string. If it is a number, we should also pass the number. Okay. So there are some examples as well, like you can practice. Like they're asking to convert this to switch statement. Like if it is zero, alert zero. If it is 2 or 3, alert 2, 3. Okay, so you can practice those. So we'll learn about functions. So, so these are like normal JavaScript functions. Okay, so functions are like generally when we use it, like when we like we can like what is the use of functions and what is function we can know. So it's a block of code which can be called from anywhere, like it has some meaning. Okay, so that particular block of code has some meaning and we can reuse those. Okay, in those cases we can use these functions. So in any of the programming languages, without functions we don't write code. So that's why we call functions are main building blocks of program. Okay, why? Because without functions we don't write code. Any of the code which we start writing, it should have a function. Okay, that's a good practice, and we shouldn't write the code globally. That's why we call functions as a building block of code, and we should ensure whenever we are writing a function, it should be reusable. Like reusable means uh, the same thing. Like for example, I can say I'll write a function. Okay, I'll write a function saying so some some function. I'm just printing it console.log. Okay. It can be anything. So just I'm calling this like for example in some other code, if it is some value is equal to 6 or 7, I'm calling this. Okay, just assume that. Okay, so like how I can make it like reusable, like what I'm doing here, if value is equal to 6 or 7, I'm calling show weekend message. Okay, so let's define some value. Let's say value is 6. So in order to call the function like it's normal functions, that's why we just give the name of the function and give the semicolon so that we can call this. Okay, so after calling this, I got it's a weekend. So I might have some value as 0, then I want to show like it's a Monday or Sunday, right? So in those cases, I don't want to create a new function. So I want to use the same function. So in those cases, what I can do, I can take the input. Instead of checking here, I can take the input, what is the value, and I can check in that particular function itself. So like I can say like if it is 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, I can call another function which says it's not a weekend, but it's not reusable, like only for particular thing it's running. So it should work for all the things. The same function we should try to optimize for the all the things. So all this code we can write it in this particular function itself and check whether it's a weekend or not by taking the parameter value here itself. So what is the use of this taking the value here? So that I can check in this particular function itself and I can use this code as much as possible. Okay, instead of checking here. So I'll it's more theoretical. I'll tell more examples when I actually
ఏమే
go on then go on.
మ్యూట్లో
So we call this as function declaration, like where we can create a function and show something. That is a function declaration. So these functions like function space, function name, followed by closing and like opening curly brace and closing curly brace. So we use these in normal client scripts, business tools, all those, but we don't use it in script include. This particular function declaration, we don't use it in script include. Why we don't use and why it doesn't work, I'll tell you when I come about like when I tell about script include. Okay. So function have multiple parameters. So what is mean by parameter is so whatever the value which it accepts. Okay. So that is a parameter. So here we have parameter 1, parameter 2, right? So what is the use of this parameter? Like I can use that in the function. Okay. For example, instead of it, greet, I can say, right? So says hi, good morning. Okay. So it doesn't have any parameters. So this function, it is simple function and I have declared this function here and I'm calling from here which says hi Sunil, good morning. Okay. So I want to do it dynamically. Dynamically means whichever the value I pass, it should use that. Like instead of Sunil, it should take whatever the value I pass. Okay. So for this, I expect something called as name and I'll give that particular name here. Okay. So I want to make this dynamic. So how can I do it? So I have to replace this Sunil with name. So how can I do that? First, so whatever which is in these double quotes, it won't read, it will show as it is. Like any JavaScript code, whichever it is in starting with double quotes and ending with double quotes, it won't parse it or it won't replace any values. It will be just showing how it is. It is very, very important. Just listen everybody. So if it is starting with double quotes and ending with double quotes, it won't change anything. It will be showing as it is. Okay. So that's why even if I write name here, okay, and pass some name saying, for example, Anil. Okay, it will what it shows hi name good morning. Why? Because it is not changing like it is not interpreting this value which is name. It is just showing as it is. Why? Because it's in between these double quotes. So how we can show this particular name dynamically is so we should close this high and we can use plus operator. So in order to concat, so and we can close this. Okay, so hi. So we have to concatenate this particular name or any variable with these spaces with this plus. So whatever it is in double quotes, it will be showing hi as the same. For example, let me print this. Okay. So after executing what I got hi plus. So here it is dynamic. Dynamic means I'm using some other variables value. So that's why I kept it in plus name. So it reads that particular value and appends to it. Okay, and it says good morning. So is everyone got like how we can append any variable into string? So we use it at multiple places in service now. It's very important to know. If you have any doubts, tell me. Is everyone got this? I'm assuming that everyone got this. Okay, so here what is like uh, so uh, what is the use of this parameter is like based on that parameter I can make the things dynamic and I can use it, right? So that's why we accept these parameters and we can use that. So whatever the variables declared in this particular function will be to this particular function itself. That means, like for example, here I can say var msg. Okay, so var msg, what it is doing, it is holding this particular value hi, whatever the name, and good morning. Okay, so it is in this particular function. Okay, so what I want to do, if I try to use if I try to use that outside this function, it won't work. Okay, why? Because it is in this particular block of code. Okay, so that's why we call it as local variable. Okay, so it is saying message is not defined means it is not able to find this particular msg variable. Why? Because it is in that particular function only. That's why whatever declared in this particular function, we call this as local variables. Okay, which are visible only inside the function. So outer variables means those are global variables. So which will be available through the entire but that program. So that's why even if we use if you declare anything outside, that we can use inside this particular function as well. Okay. For example, hello is there, username, it will first check inside it. If it is not able to find inside it, it will check outside. Okay. So it is checking outside. So username is John. So the output which we will be getting is hello John. Is everyone getting like how this particular program processes? Okay. So if it has some variable inside this particular function, it will check first. If it is not able to find this particular variable inside this particular function, then it is checking outside. So which is global. Okay. So, and parameters should be in the order. Like for example, like if there are multiple parameters from text or something like one, two. So whatever I pass, and it will be going to from only. Okay. If it is hello, it will be going to the this particular text variable. So we can't change the order. We should pass in the order itself. First will be going to first, second will be going to the second. Okay. We can't change the order. So for example, in some cases we might want default values as well. Okay. What are default values means? For example, for the same thing, let me just okay. For example, I'm printing this message. I'm getting hi Anil, good morning. Okay. In some cases, they might not pass this. Okay. So, so we might want to give some default values like this. Okay. So then in those cases, what we can do, name equals to Anil. We can Anil or for example Sunil. Okay. So and I don't pass anything here. Okay. So what will be the output? Hi Sunil, good morning should be the output, right? Why? Because I have given some default value here. Okay. If I give here, for example, Redlady, then it will be taking. If I don't pass anything, it will be taking this value. If I pass something, it will take that particular value. If I don't pass, then only this will be taking this value. That's why we call this as default value. Okay. So for example, we might not get some values in some cases, like I don't know whether this particular thing supports in ServiceNow or not, but in those cases, how we can check is like if that particular value is not there. If, for example, if text is undefined, then we can write like no text is given. Otherwise, we can write the same thing using or operator. Okay. For example, let's see this particular default value is not available. Okay. How we can write is like if name is undefined, that means it's not given. Right? Equals to okay. Okay. So it is also the same thing as default value. Okay, I'm not passing anything, so this value it won't get any value. So it will be undefined. Undefined means it's not defined, it's not initialized. So it will be getting the value as name is Sunil. So hi Sunil, good morning will be the output. Okay, so the same thing how we can write is using the shorthand operator, like even it works in ServiceNow as well. Okay, so if the name is present, that means if name is there, it will take the name. Okay, if it is undefined or zero or empty, then it will take this particular value. So that's why we use R, right? So if R finds some truthy value here, it will return that value. If it doesn't find any truthy value, then it will check for the other value. Okay, so we can use this particular or operator, we can make use of this. So if it has some value, it will take that value. If it doesn't have that value, it will be taking the value which is given. So as of now we are not passing anything, so I'm getting the Sunil. If I pass anything, then it will take that particular value. Okay, is everyone getting, or it's a too much of information? Okay, in real time you can make use of this. So I generally use this like if in ServiceNow, uh, if we don't get the data, then we can use this particular other values. Okay, in service portal also we'll use these kind of things. Okay. So any function can return a value as well. For example, like as of now, what we are doing, we are just printing something. Okay, for example, let's change the example here. There is a function which will be giving, for example, sum of given numbers. Okay, add, which will take two parameters. Param1 and param2. Okay, I have to add these two numbers. So in real cases, what we'll be doing, we won't print that in surveys now or anywhere. We won't print that. So we'll just use that particular value. So in those cases, I'll tell you. For example, I have used this add. Okay, like what I'm doing, I want to add 1 comma 2. So what will be the output? As I didn't write any console.log, it won't print anything. Okay, so what I'll do is, so this function, whatever it's there, it should return the value. Like, so if it returns the value, that it will be coming here. Okay, for example, let's see what is this function is returning. Console.log, I'm printing, like for example, instead of writing like this, var val goes to something. Okay, so I'm expecting some value from this add function and I'm printing that value. Okay, let's see what happens. Sorry. So it is undefined. Why it is undefined? From here, we are like this add function is not sending anything. So the sending anything like after computation, if some function want to send something means that has to return the value. That's why we use this return statement, and I'm returning the sum whichever it is calculated here, and that particular return value I want to use it here or do something with it. So in those cases we will be using return. Okay, so once the return statement executed, no other statement will be executing below it. Return means the execution is completed and I'm returning that particular computed value. So this function, add function, whichever is there, it is returning the sum of two numbers. So what should this value should contain? So add 1 comma 2, the computation is happening here and it is returning the sum. So okay, so this val, whatever is the val is there, it should contain 3 because I passed 1 comma 2 and computation is happening here. 1 plus 2 is 3, right? So this val is 3 and I'm printing this value as 3. Okay, that's why we use return statement. So what is this use of return statement is, we can reuse those functions if it is returning something. Okay, we can reuse it from multiple places instead of statically printing something. We can reuse those. So always try to return the values. So, okay, whenever you write a function, and after return statement is, for example, after this return statement I have written 5. Okay, it won't run. Why? Because it has already returned the value and assumed it as I have completed this particular function execution. So I won't get this particular high in any point of time. Okay, whatever the things you want to do, you have to do before returning the values only. Okay, are you getting? Is everyone getting? You can go through like other examples as well. Okay, And whenever you are naming a function, that should be you should uh, tell that what is that particular function is doing. Okay, if it is returning any value, it should be like you should prefix with get. For example, I want to get latest incident. Okay, from all the incidents I want to get latest incident. Okay, in that case I have to use that particular function name as get latest incident. Okay, if it is calculating something, I should use calc, or if it is creating something, create incident, or if it is checking something, it's check permission. So it should the function should tell what it is doing. Okay, so whenever you are naming it, it should tell what it is doing. And ideally one function do only one thing. Like what it means, like for example, if it is for addition, it should do only addition, it should not do multiplication and subtraction. That means it should, whatever it is name is telling, it should do those things only, and it should not do multiple things. Okay, and it should be modular. Like for example, so generally what we'll be doing, we will be creating only one function and we'll be doing all the things in that particular function only. So instead of it, try to divide that particular all the code into multiple blocks of code. Okay, so that it will be easy to read, and we can by looking at the driver function, we can know what is that particular thing is doing. Okay, we shouldn't write like 1,000 lines of code in one single function. It will be very hard to read and hard to debug as well. Okay, so that's why we should use multiple function, and it should tell what it is doing. Okay, so that's it about functions. You can go through these once, and you can do some task as well. Okay, tomorrow's so so whatever we have learned till now, it is a function declaration, and we have something called as function expression in JavaScript. Okay, function expression means first we'll be declaring some variable, like for example var say hi, and equal to I am holding that all the function in this particular variable. That's why we call this as function expression. Okay, like for example, this particular add function is there, I'll rewrite using function expression. Okay, so how it will be, like I'm creating a variable saying add, and this particular add variable is containing this whole function. Okay, we call it as expression. Why? Because it is containing equal to, and left side it is holding the value, right side it has some expression. Okay, it's also does the same thing, but there are some little differences. Whenever you uh, use this function declaration, okay, for example, what is the difference, I'll tell you between two. Okay, so for example, this is a function, and all the declarations in these functions and definitions will be going to the top of that particular program. That means we can even call even before declaring it. That means, like for example, okay, what I'm doing, I'm calling this function even before it's getting defined. So the code runs from top to bottom, right? So what I'm doing, I'm trying to call this function. Let's see if it runs or not. Okay, it is running. Why? Because this function declarations will be internally will be going to the top of the function, like top of the program. Okay, even if you use this type of function declaration, all the functions and all the function declarations will be going on the top of the program internally. Okay, that's why even it is declared at the end, we are able to call. Why? Because all the functions will be going on the top internally while it's executing the program. But it doesn't apply to the function expression. Why? Because okay, it doesn't apply to function expression. What is function expression? Where we are declaring it as a variable, okay, and giving that function as a variable value. So in these cases, it's just assume that it is a variable. So we can't use a variable until and unless it's defined. Okay. So I'm getting add is not a function. Why I'm getting, so this particular add, it's not defined till now. So whenever you use this function declaration, you should function expressions. Then whenever you are using this function expression, you should write the function first and then only you can call this. Did you get the difference? So just as these are coming, like I'm just telling, it might not be so much important, but you should know as it's a JavaScript basics. Okay. You can see I have written a semicolon. Why? Because it's add, like where add is, it's some expression value. That's why I have kept the semicolon. For normal functions, I don't write semicolon. Okay, it's just a expression. So that's why I have written the semicolon, as it's I'm considering it as a statement. Okay, callback functions I won't tell now, so it will be too much of information. Uh, Arrow functions we use in year 6 as of now. We don't learn arrow functions. It will be, we don't use in service now. So if you are interested to know, you can go through these. But arrow functions is something, it's little bit advanced and we don't use it in service now as well. Okay. So uh, tomorrow we can learn about like other things. Uh, Already I have told these, like how to write the comments and style, all these. Tomorrow probably I'll check what is in. Let me stop sharing. Let me stop recording.